In this video, you will learn a fun technique for painting a tree using watercolors. Using a mop brush loaded with water, I create a tree structure. I didn't sketch the tree, I simply go with the flow state to create a tree. Here in this first step, I'm going to paint the wet area which is in the form of a tree. Using a mix of gamboge yellow and sap green, I paint the tree. Instead of painting the tree with my mop brush, I allow the pigment to flow into the wet area. You can position the board at an angle by placing a book or a box at one end of the board so that the pigment can flow downward. And also I tilt the board in all directions to ensure the pigment moves throughout all the wet areas. Next, we move on to the second step. In this step, I'm mixing sap green with indigo. Using this mix, I add a second layer to the tree. Once again, I allow the pigment to flow freely and I'm just witnessing how the pigment interacts with the wet area. I want to share an important tip with you at this moment. Using a damp brush, remove any excess watercolor pigment that is collected at the edges of the wet area. Because the excess watercolor pigment which got accumulated at the edges will run out of its place due to gravity, creating a streak of line. Next, we move on to third step. In this step, I'm using the pigment indigo and allowing it to flow inside the wet area. The excess watercolor pigment in the wet area run out of its place and you can see how a streak of line is formed in our watercolor painting. Using a waste cloth, I lift some pigment, then using a damp brush, I lift the remaining pigment. Next, I mix vermilion hue with indigo to get a brown hue which is used to paint the trunk of the tree. After applying the pigment, I tilted the board and once again I allow the pigment to flow inside the tree. This time I'm careful not allowing the brown pigment to spread into the branches of the tree. Using a clean damp brush, I touch the wet area of the brown pigment, which beautifully spreads into the wet area. I splattered some sap green around the branches of the tree. The final step is adding a depth to our painting. The tree is still wet, so I'm using indigo to paint the shadow part of the tree. When we add more depth to our painting, we can bring our subject to life. We reached the end of this painting process. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. See you in another video. Until then, take care and bye bye from Prema.